He knows about this struggle and all his ideas and his advice to the young ones who are really fighting so hard for the liberation of the people of Ambazonia. Today, Jomba Akuro is here with us, and he's going to be giving us his ideas, his own take in many of the issues that we have been talking along the years within the struggle. Comrade Jomba Akuro is here with us, and he's very, very ready. As you can see, he's here. And Comrade Jomba Akuro, can you give an opening comment to the audience? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Comrade, for having me. I'm delighted to be part of this this great platform, and thank you for counting me worthy to share my views with your audience. I must apologize. It was a very, very busy day for me. I literally just came off work and dived in here. So apologies for the disorder you may find behind me in my office, but it's okay. I suppose we can make do. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Comrade Jomba Akuro. Thank you for honoring this invitation. I know you have a very busy schedule, but you took your time to join us, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much. We're going to go straight to the questioning. Some of the happenings in the struggle, you know much better than I do, because you are hitting, your TV channel is there, Comrade Jomba Akuro channel. You always go on and you hit all these ideas, So we're just going to be touching some of them, to know your take about them. The number one that we're going to talk about is about the law, the Cameroon law, the tax laws that we all know that has been very controversial. Most of the taxes, the government keep increasing taxes in all commodities, and you know better that it has really affected the people of Southern Cameroon-Ambazonia, all the taxes. So I want to get a take about that. What do you think about the tax policies of Cameroon? Do you believe that they are fair and they are sufficient to support Cameroon's development, or they're just there to bring more hardship on the people?
Well, the the first thing I would like to say is that my focus is Ambazonia. My focus is the Southern Cameroons, and so how it affects the people of the Southern Cameroons is what really will concern me. As for the people of La République du Cameroon, is retribution. I should simply say is retribution because definitely someone had to pay for that. For the exorbitant cost of occupation. You know, the one thing I like to draw the attention of our people to, especially those who usually sit behind and you want to talk to them, they say, go that your Amber thing or you that your Southern Cameroons. I don't want to know whatever is happening. I told people a lot of the times that La République du Cameroon will meet them right, in their bedrooms with the ugly policies, with, I mean, the stench of black on black colonialism to the point where they will realize that it would have made a lot of sense for them to, join hands in this liberation movement so that as fast as possible we could kick La République du Cameroon out of our land with their ugly policies. Because look at this, which country in the world would operate taxes like La République du Cameroon does? But don't forget, this is something that was foreseeable. I've talked about this several times. I told people that this was going to happen, that La République was going to get to this point. Because from 2017, La République has not been able to extort at least some of the resources that they have been getting from Ambazonia. The only one that they have succeeded, to continue dealing in so far has been oil. But don't forget, that's only one because even the resources from oil are mostly pilfered by the governing class. But when it comes to getting taxes from our land, when it comes to harvesting, timber, when it comes to, getting access to some of those resources that really matter to them, it's not been easy at all. But that is not all. Most importantly, we have made the cost of occupation unbearable to the point where the government of La République du Cameroon has had to devote a lot of its resources mainly fighting to continue to maintain its presence in the southern Cameroons. So it was always going to get to a point where they will begin to get totally asphyxiated and they will not be able to, uh, meet the costs, and they would tax their people to death. The only unfortunate thing is that because they are still present on our land, our people are forced to pay those unfortunate taxes. There is one other element you must know, and this is something I talked about on my platform a few days ago. I said, you know, this war that La République du Cameroon has been leading in Ambazonia, this genocidal war, is a French proxy war. But France has seen its own share of enormous trouble in the past couple of years. And so France itself right now is beginning to face serious budgetary deficits. And I said, because France can no longer have literally free uranium from Niger, France can no longer have literally free gold from Mali, France can no longer have all the resources that they were getting from Burkina Faso, from Guinea. It's getting very complicated, and the French are also being chased away now from Senegal. They are being chased away from Chad, and they were already chased away from the Central African Republic. So the consequence of all this is that, in effect, the French are finding themselves in a very tight corner, and so it's getting so hard for them to continue to sustain La République du Cameroon financially. So that's why in La République du Cameroon right now, the government has to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze from the people to maintain its presence in Ambazonia. But for how long? So, my message here to the people of the Southern Cameroons who are feeling the stench of this colonial tax from a neighboring country is that it makes sense to join hands with us so that as fast as possible we get these invaders out of our land, and then we begin to define our own policies, define our own development priorities, and we begin to put in place a kind of governance that is people oriented as we seek.
Yeah, you. you mentioned a lot about the sufferings of the people, and these tax policies does not only affect the people of La Republique, it affects Ambazonians. Then imagine that you saw the CDC workers who were crying that their salary have not been paid for months. Eh? The unemployment rate is very high. All the overburden of taxes on the citizens. How are they going to pay the taxes in these circumstances of economic crisis? Because this is a significant burden on the population of Southern Cameroon and Ambazonians. The CDC workers were not being paid for so many months, and we saw them marching, protesting.
Well, I think one thing you need to bear in mind, like I said a while ago, this is a foreign tax. We shouldn't pay it in the first place. It shouldn't concern us in the first place. But unfortunately, because they are still on our land, I mean, our people in some areas are forced to pay this. In a lot of other areas, in a lot of other counties and local government areas in the southern Cameroons, it will be difficult to enforce this tax. The government of Cameroon is aware that they have made even their country so much hell to the point where everybody will want to leave. That's why you see that the consequences that they are dangling at people if you don't volunteer yourself to go and pay those taxes is that you will not be given a passport to leave because they know it is hell, and so everybody should be in a haste to leave. They tell you you will not be able to take off from their airports. They tell you that you will not be able to get the tax clearance certificate and all of those things. For the local people who don't need all of this paperwork, why should they be paying those taxes? Because look at the obnoxious nature of the tax in the first place. You expect people who don't have jobs, who don't have incomes, who are not able to manage at least one meal a day, who are living far below the poverty line on less than $1 a day. Now you ask these people to go and declare their taxes, and to do so, they have to spend about 5, 10,000 to indicate that they don't have income. So where do they get that money? So they need to go and borrow money to come and bail themselves. I call that now bail. That's, I mean, a kind of taking the people to ransom. But they don't have money. So they now have to start calling family members and people left and right, like a lot of them have been calling people in the diaspora. The same diaspora that the government tells them is full of evil people who only want to bring them confusion and all of those things. Now they are turning back to us, say, please, I need some money to bail myself out from the Cameroon government. So those are some of the kind of things that we are talking about here. But at the same time, because that's a form of asking every individual in the country to declare their assets. But the Cameroon Constitution in Article 66 requires that the President of the Republic, the Prime Minister, ministers, in fact, all those ranking as such, all those holding major public offices should declare their assets. None of them has ever done so. Yet, they are expecting poor individuals who have never worked, who graduated from university and all of those and have loitered around, some struggling even to ride bikes, but they can't even get the capital to buy a bike and all of that. Some have even struggled to push trucks around. They can't even have the capital to buy a truck. And you're asking them to look for 5,000, 10,000 to come declare that they don't have income. So it's simply ridiculous. And so, like I said, for the people of the Southern Cameroons, this normally should not concern us. We should not be part of it. We have a way out of it. And the only way out of it is join the fold. Because let me say this, and I want to reiterate it. For those who sit in the diaspora sometimes and want to talk, they tell us that, oh, some dangle trash in our faces. Sorry to use that hard word, but that is really what it is. Sometimes we really don't need to be afraid of words. They tell you,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to be concerned with that, your Ambazonia, that thing, and all whatnot. The government of La République du Cameroon is already considering the possibility of taxing even people in the diaspora. I hope you are aware of that. They are copying something that Eritrea did some time ago and went ahead to enforce it. They want to tax the people in the diaspora. Tell you will collect your pay. You're in the United States, you collect your pay. After you pay taxes to Uncle Sam, you go to the Cameroon embassy in Washington, D.C., you declare your income, and you pay those taxes.
If you don't pay, the day you step your feet in Cameroon, in La République du Cameroon, the consequences are dire. You will be arrested, you will be detained, you will pay penalties and pay until before, I mean, you see the light of day. So don't think that you are going to run away from the stench and the evil that is coming from La République du Cameroon and visiting our people in the southern Cameroons, unfortunately. Join hands with us. Let's get these invaders, let's get these intruders out of our land so that we can
You,
transform Ambazonia, make it the land of milk
you
and
know of
honey we desire to do. And we will be able to live a better life and have a place we can call home. Because for a lot of us, there is no more home
you know of
until we
the
take
of the of
the
the
root out of Amazonia.
you remind me of the outing of Senator Belamoki, who was complaining of the knees on the neck of the people of Southern Cameroon.
The
You
people
really elaborated in one of your show about that.
of
How,
yes,
yeah,
of the knee, on the neck of the people of the so-called Southwest, as created by the
yeah,
Republic du Cameroon. I know you are talking about Bella, you are talking about Bella Mokitas, aka Ngaringa Ringa. Go ahead.
yeah. So Belamoki was crying about that, and they are the lawmakers, they are the policymakers. So it baffles me how a policymaker and a lawmaker will be crying. They're one of the common man. They are the one making policies. These tax laws and all this thing, they don't say anything, but they go to parliament and start complaining to the parliamentarians when they are the ones that are lawmakers. They can pass laws to prevent any tax laws that are no good. But I don't understand. So you know, can you talk about the outing on Belamoki, about roads, about all those?
I think you are being too generous, giving uh sorry about the word. I really don't mean to insult him, but that is exactly what it is. Giving nincompoops powers they don't have because they really don't have those powers. Belamoki Charles and the others, they know that there have been no elections in the southern Cameroons, I mean, since 2016. There have been no elections in southern Cameroon. There have been selections or appointments. And in general, even in the Republic du Cameroon, they don't organize elections, they organize selections. So those people are appointed by Mr. Paul Biya to do his bidding. And because they know that their power base is not the people that they claim to represent, their power base is Mr. Paul Biya, is the executive, is the person that appointed them. How can they bite the finger that is feeding them? How can he talk with confidence? You notice that when he was talking, his voice was even cackling. You notice that he was shivering. You see, he had to start by trying to, let me use this, this word from another world, trying to masturbate the brains of the people of the government of La République du Cameroon so that they don't see him as being overly radical, saying, boys and girls, are you ready to listen? What other nonsense in a parliament? So what I'm trying to say here is simply that they are toothless. The only reason they are there is to help La République du Cameroon to give the impression to the rest of the world that the people of the southern Cameroons belong. That's the only reason they are there. Nothing else. You heard him cry about the Limbe Deep Sea
Absolutely.
Port. You heard him cry about the Tico Airport. You heard him cry about this, but it's the same man who said that someone's knee someone's knee was on the neck of the so-called Southwest. And you know, he was trying to push there an unfortunate narrative created by La République du Cameroon in their drive to divide and rule the people of the Southern Cameroons. Because as Southern Cameroonians, we never had anything called Northwest and Southwest. You know, we had 4 or 5 divisions. I heard about the Bamenda division, the Kumba division, the Cambe division, and all of those, the Manthe division. We never had something called Northwest, Southwest. It was created by La République du Cameroon with the clear purpose or intention of dividing us to better rule us. And people like Belamoki, I call them, slave children, find themselves there, therefore feeding on that kind of trash. Because I asked this question when Belamoki is talking about the Limbe deep sea port, where was Belamoki when Fonjindam, who is not even of the so-called Southwest? took the charge, took the initiative to see how to use other means to drag that seaport to Limbe. Of course, he started a shipyard in Limbe. When he started it, if you stand at Costa Marina in Limbe, the Hotel Costa Marina in Limbe, or even Fini Hotel, you will see the job that Fonjindam started. And he wanted to establish a shipyard there. And if they started maintaining ships in Limbe, La République du Cameroon knew it will result to the construction of that deep sea port in Limbe. And they needed to stop this. So they had to come up with trumped up charges on Fonjindam, claimed he had embezzled money. Let me remind you, Zacchaeus Fonjindam is the only person in the dungeons of La République du Cameroon accused of embezzling less than 250 million CFA, but who is serving a life jail term. I mean, a life jail term. What was his crime? His crime was trying to do exactly what La République du Cameroon did not want. There are two kinds of people who are in those jails. There's even another one, Amadou Vamouke, who is of the far north of La République du Cameroon. He too is in jail there. You see, they took him to court several times, no charge. But the crime he committed was that when he was appointed Director General of CRTV, he attempted to think of liberating the people of the Southern Cameroon by saying, let's create an English language channel. But because they had plans to assimilate us, to transform us into house slaves and all of those, they will go after anyone who attempts that. I expected Belamoki to rise up to Garezipo and say, no, we are fighting for our brother. Yet, they rather made him to see that particular brother as the enemy. And that is a tragedy. Is it the people of the grass field that took away the deep seaport project from Limbe to Kribi? Is it the people of the grass field who have denied to give Mbelamoki roads? Are they the ones who are minister of public works? So this fallacy is what has destroyed their brains, and they can't think straight. But unfortunately, they will do only that because that is why La République du Cameroon appointed them senators, parliamentarians, and all of those things, and mayors, because we have no elected official in the Southern Cameroons. At least even Elekam gave their statistics that less than 5% of the people of our region voted. But you know that even this so-called 5% that they're talking about 3 to 4%, were constituted of, La République du Cameroon colonial administrators, their citizens who are on our land, and the military that they dispatched to our land for the purpose of occupation. So our people elected nobody. Anybody making noise in the House of Assembly of La République in Cameroon and claiming to be talking on our behalf, they are on their own. That's why they are being maltreated. If they knew that they had a power base, be their people, they have the backing of their people, they can talk on behalf of their people, they will talk with authority. But because they know that they are there, appointed by that same system to do its bidding, that's why once in a while they make that noise just to claim some degree of popularity and say, Master, I spoke my mind. You spoke your mind. That's why I christened him. That is the man who saw yesterday, today.
Yeah, you have elaborated so, because this is the divide and rule tactics that they have been using along the years. We already know them. They use different techniques. The Atanganji boys, we know they use those divide and rule techniques all along the years. They went and bribed fighters. They went and created all this GDR center, and they have imprisoned our leaders, done so many different things for the struggle. They have used even the chiefs. You have seen how the chiefs came out one time that they are pouring libation against the struggle. They have used all kind of black magic against the struggle, but the struggle still stand. I want you to talk a little bit about the outing of the chief that came out and was talking about the issue of that the Amber Boys should drop their weapons. You saw that the chief came out and was at the phone. He came out and was talking about that. I want you to throw a little bit light about that and how we have seen along the years the La République government have used the chiefs and phones to do their bidding. So many times we have seen them They go out and some were pouring libation one time like that. That they this was about 3 years ago. We saw the chiefs and fonts. Some of them came out and they were doing what they call whether libation or whatever they are doing. But the struggle continues. You know, of recent you saw the letter of the fund who was trying to say that the Amber Boys should drop their weapon. If not, they will. Whether he said what, I don't understand what he was saying, but he was trying to say if they don't drop their weapons, they will be liable for it. But this is something that has been going on for many years, and you have been in this struggle. You know, as a pioneer member of this struggle, you know a lot of this thing. His Royal Highness Fon Richard Muntong III of Goketunja. You know, so
No,
I don't know. So what do you think about that?
of Bamising specifically. Of Bamising. That's the fun of Bamising. Can you hear me, Mr. Misodi? Yeah, I was saying that you're talking there about the fun of Bamising. That guy, first of all, he cannot read and write. So if I were to judge, I will not be too hard on him. I would think that it will be principally because he's an illiterate. He did not go to school, so he cannot read and write. And so some CPDM hoodlums, the members of the CPDM crime syndicate who are from Gokotunja and then specifically from Bamesing village, wrote that nonsense and gave him to sign. That guy has even been in Douala for all this while. So the fund had long abdicated his village and have been surviving there from contributions that were still going to him by some concerned villagers who felt that perhaps he was going to keep his dignity. I'm sure he doesn't realize that now that he fell to the machinations of those members of the CPDM crime syndicate, he's going to be losing, the source of the money he was having from those who were still sympathizing with him. The basic truth in this whole thing is that these funds and chiefs have, they long lost touch with the people, and this started since 1990 with the return to or at the dawn of multipartism. It started since 1990. You will recall that a lot of the funds were forced to become CPDM militants, and if they will not be CPDM militants, of course, the CPDM government or like the La Republic government will do what they know how to do always: create chieftaincy problems in the village and threaten to dethrone you. And so, for you to try to maintain yourself as the fund or the chief, you discover that you have to toe the line. That's what they have done across the board. I was divisional delegate for communication in Kupe Wanenguba. Of course, I was the pioneer. So I'm very, very aware of those antics because I worked with the administration, and I did actually participate in hearing and trying to address a lot of those chieftaincy problems. And a lot of them were politically engineered because the CPDM crime syndicates will consider if you don't if you don't adhere to the CPDM and don't declare that you're a CPDM and start forcing, the people of your community or your village or your fondom or chiefdom to become CPDM, they will threaten to dethrone you. I'm sure you have not forgotten the incidents when they asked some funds to throw sticks in the palace and say everybody should come into the palace and cross on those sticks and swear that they will all vote CPDM, and if you don't vote CPDM, you will have consequences and things like that. It is right from that moment. Those funds that fell to those antics, already sold their birthrights, already sold the prestige that came along with their offices, and their involvement in politics already diminished their influence to the point where, at the outbreak of this liberation movement, you saw that a good lot of them had to run away from their villages because, first, they were already on the wrong side of history because
Wow.
by dint of already belonging to the CPDM crime syndicate, they had long ago been against the wishes and aspirations of the people. And that's why you see that a majority of those funds are not in the villages. Anyone who calls himself fun and who is not living in their village right now and reigning over their people has abdicated. Those are people who are not, those are people that are no longer funds. I don't consider those ones funds anymore. The real funds who know their people and their people know them are living in their villages, even in the midst of this ongoing genocidal war. And so the blackmail from La République du Cameroon as if you are not with us, then you are against us, has never succeeded in carrying them. Never succeeded in to do wrong things. You notice that when they found Obama captured and kept for well over 8 months, you didn't see the people of the village revolt. You didn't see the people of the village go out to say, "Oh, we are going out to complain that our fund." They simply heaved a sigh of relief that he needed to be taught a lesson to understand that the people who crown you never can not one simply becoming basehells in your hands. Will you forcing your will on them? You have to sit on judgment on them according to, their wishes and aspirations. And if you don't work for them, you are not for them. That's why I see all those charlatans making all of that noise. They don't live in their villages. Look at the fund of Misodi. Misodi was a very venerated founder. That you know. But what has the fund done to that founder? He has reduced, the respect and everything that went with that founder. Bubble. And that's exactly what has happened. Look at the fund of Bali. It's the same thing. I don't want to get into itemizing all of those things, but one thing is certain. What they don't know is history is taking notes, very good notes. The consequences that some of them face is that at the dawn of total liberation, I'm not one of those who will vouch for what some people are proposing as eradicating the institution of chieftaincy and fiefdoms. It's our culture. Because of some renegades who will not eradicate something that's so dear to us. But we can make proposals and push to ensure that in the various villages, they take away royalty from their family lines. Simply put, they simply take away the royalty from those family lines that have desecrated the institution of chiefdom and fiefdom in our land. Simply put, the founder of Bamesing knows that the trash that he's saying will not go anywhere. His betters had done greater than what he's saying. It resulted to nothing.
Yeah.
I can recall
think
my friend from Bambi gathered people in Bamenda, and they said that they were pouring libation. I saw Moja, another
I think
just
the way they are treating the politicians.
and it never worked. So it's a waste of time.
Yeah. So yes, I think the way they're treating the politicians is the same way they're treating the chiefs, and it's the same way they're treating the men of God. And they have used the same techniques for all these three categories of people: the politicians, the men of God, and the fonts and chiefs. They fall in the same category. They'll use them to go and do all their bidding. They'll use these people. So do you believe that the men of God, like Bishop Mkeya came out and was talking about the failure of the Grand National Dialogue, talking about how some Southwesterners like Von Mukete said that they want 10-state federation, but they don't want the federal system. So what's your take about that? Should the men of God like this bishop be neutral, not part of politics, or they should be part of politics, but they are playing not the politics of the Archbishop Desmond Tutu or the Reverend Martin Luther Kings? They are playing the politics of the government, not the politics that we all know.
Let me take this opportunity to make this very important remark. The one thing I would do, even before responding to your question, is to call on our self-defense volunteers, our brave hearts, not to ever bother laying their hands or doing anything to any man or woman of God. Allow them to the judgment of God. I'll say this because it's very important for us to note. Our struggle is God ordained. Those men of God or women of God, you see that you first of all say man before you say of God. You say woman before you say of God. Meaning that they are just man like you and I, who can easily be corrupted, who can easily, depart from the religious principles that should govern their actions. And so, for me, I will say in very clear terms, a good lot of them have disappointed the people of the Southern Cameroons enormously. Because by nature, any man of God, any woman of God, worthy of the salt, will be calling for justice, will be preaching justice, will be standing for the oppressed people, not standing with the oppressor. Have you talked about Desmond Tutu? That's distant. Look into
Because by
Nigeria.
nature,
Right in Nigeria, just next to us here, you will find Catholic bishops, Catholic priests stand in church on the pulpit in Biafra land and see it as it is and tell the world that everybody should know that this thing that is being done this way is wrong and call for justice. When I see some sit in our land and talk about, I was having this conversation with someone the other day about Pastor Wara in the Menda. I said, this is someone, I mean, I had a lot of respect for Pastor Wara. I will not judge him because, I mean, God will take care of that. But for me to watch Pastor Wara stand in a place and describe Lele Lafrique de Benchofo, who is presiding over a genocide in the Southern Cameroons, whose hands are stained with blood, a lot of blood. We saw what happened in Gabu. It was under his watch. We saw what happened to Sam Sawyer. Sam Sawyer, a lame man, was skinned alive under the watch of Lele Lafrique de Benchofo. All the women who have been raped, killed, are people slaughtered. All the looting that is going on is happening before the very eyes of Lele Lafrique de Benchofo. As I'm talking to you now, few days ago, those soldiers were in Foya, Bafut. They went from house to house, breaking in. Where there was nobody, they broke in, carted valuables, carried where they saw money, they took it. Where they saw, good equipment, TV, laptops, whatever, they carried it. And in the end, they carted hundreds of youths and took them to Bamenda. And each had to start bailing themselves with ranging from 50,000 to 500,000 CFA. Otherwise, you'll be tagged a terrorist. This is happening under the watchful eyes of Lele Lafrique de Benchofo. For just one little example, they have been doing that everywhere. The other day, I was listening to a lady who was narrating her ordeal at Tradex, around Tradex, there in Bamenda. Because it's happening in Kumba, it's happening in Boya, it's happening in, it's happening in Manfe, all over Ambazonia. And this lady was saying how they were just passing. She was just passing, and the trigger happy soldiers saw her come for no good reason. But she had where she was going. And they would just ask people to come and dance to entertain them. Can you imagine that? And worse of what she said was how little children, minor children, were sent to fetch water by their parents. And these soldiers would stand, look at those children, female children, and select their own and ask them to follow them. Even when the children will protest, say the parents send them and are waiting for them. Because they have guns and everything, they are afraid. They take those children and go and rape them. All this before the watchful eyes of Lele Lafrique de Benchofo. And I could hear Pastor Wara say that when God blesses, gives people a good leader, it's a blessing. And who was he described as a good leader? Lele Lafrique de Benchofo. And I asked myself, are we talking about the same person? Do we read the same Bible? So these are questions that I ask. But again, I'll reiterate what I just said. This should not provoke our self-defense volunteers or whosoever. Because I heard sometimes the kidnapping of Reverend Fathers, the kidnapping of this. I know a lot of those things are not done by our self-defense volunteers. But if any of them are ever involved in this, I'm urging them, leave those men and women of God alone. The Reverend Sisters, all not, leave them alone. Anyone who is against us, leave them to the judgment of God. But the people who can sanction are the parishioners. If you are a Christian, you want justice, and you are worshiping in a church where your pastor goes and is venerating and even decorating somebody whose hands are all stained with blood, who is actively presiding over a genocide, then you know what to do. A simple boycott will bring that person back to land rather than going, doing things that are not, acceptable in the eyes of God and the eyes of man. We'll let God take the judgment on them.
Wow. Thank you. We we are fighting for justice, and but we see injustices across the world. Uh, Look at the arrest of Dr. Cho Ayaba, and the how Professor Masanga and all some other key leaders like you are trying to file for the ICC charge against Paul Biya. But the world is very one. This is very biased kind of justice. We are fighting for justice, but there is injustice across the world. The arrest of Dr. Cho Ayaba is something that I know you guys have, all the leaders have sat and discussed about it. But we see that Paul Biya committing all sorts of crime, all this allegation, but he still walk free. But someone who is fighting for freedom is being arrested. I don't understand, because this is something that we have to look at. How someone who has been committing crime from Pinyin massacre to Batibo, Ngabu, all this massacre, is walking free, but somebody who is fighting to defend, So I don't know your take about the arrest of Dr. Cho.
I will say this. First, you pointed out a number of issues in that single question. Let me come in by saying this. The international system, or the international system is very complicated. And I've taken time off to try to let our people of Ambazonia get a careful understanding of this. On the international scene, there is no free lunch. On the international scene is interest. And on the international scene, people only get moved when they discover that they have something in it. And what you will know is that the situation in the Southern Cameroons is especially complicated because two of those who got us to where we are permanent members of the UN Security Council with veto powers. These are the United Kingdom and France. You will notice that despite the rage that some in the international system has demonstrated, it's been very difficult to get the international system to get up quickly and act. The reason is simple. The British are still determined to hang on to the agreement they had with the French, trading us to the French as if we were goats, pigs, or cattle. And the French have done everything within their powers to ensure that things stay the way they are. Of course, you are not unaware that the arrest or the kidnapping of Sisiku Julius Ayuk Tabe and members of his cabinet at the Nera Hotel in Nigeria was made possible with the participation of France. I hope you have not forgotten that that kidnap was preceded by the visit of the French President Emmanuel Macron to Nigeria. Just was it either before or after? I think it's when he went to negotiate for the people to be extradited, or for the people to be shipped like cattle and pass and sent to La République du Cameroon. France has been behind all of those things. And when you have a clear understanding of this, therefore, you know what we are up against in the Southern Cameroons. It is simply because you have countries like the United States of America where the doctrine of freedom is still very strong, and that despite having interest to protect, and sometimes even having to protect their allies or to stand with their allies, the people fundamentally get concerned about, the maltreatment of other people. I'm talking about human rights. That's why you notice that on the international scene, the country that has come out the most with resolutions upon resolutions to condemn what is going on has been the United States of America. Don't forget that the United States of America even wanted this issue discussed at the UN Security Council. But it ended up in the area formula because France and Britain will not want that to happen. So if you have this clear understanding, therefore, you will begin to decipher why we will face some of these challenges on the international scene. That doesn't mean our struggle is doomed. That simply means that we have a lot of work to do. And if we are focused, if we come to this clear understanding, we pull our resources together, we stop mudslinging, we stop unhealthy competition among ourselves, and understand that we are, first of all, on our own until La République du Cameroon starts bleeding so badly and has to tell them, I can't stand this anymore. It will be difficult for us to get to where we want to go. Because one thing you need to know is that they believe that by arresting Comrade Cho Ayaba as the kidnapped or the Chairman Sisiku Julius Ayuk Chabe, and at the time he was picked up,
Okay.
as the leader of this liberation movement. Yeah. At the time of his arrest of his kidnapping in Nigeria and all the members of his cabinet, they thought they were going to kill the struggle. It did not die. Freedom is a spirit. It doesn't get killed. So, by arresting Comrade Cho Ayaba, they are counting more on the psychological impact it's going to create on the people of the Southern Cameroons. Because they thought by doing that, they will frighten the rest of us in the diaspora. Everyone you just have to shut up your mouth. If you continue, you are going to end up like this. Let me be very clear here. By the time we started this, we all knew that we could be exposed to all kinds of hazards. But at the same time, don't forget, if they allege that any of us has committed crimes or incited crimes against humanity, there's supposed to be a time where there will be, a tribunal on the situation in the Southern Cameroons where everyone should be brought to book. So the selective approach that is being brought in right now has actually been to try and see how to help La République du Cameroon dampen the hopes and aspirations and the flair in our people, thinking this will simply die a natural death. But it's not going anywhere because our prisoners of war, both those who were arrested in the United States of America, charged and even sentenced, a lot of them are coming out and standing still very firm for our liberation movement. Those who are still behind bars are the mangangs and all of the others who are arrested in the US. Those brave hearts, those brave guys, they are still standing strong for this liberation movement. So you notice that even Sisiku Julius Ayuk Tabe and all those who are with him there in Kondengi, in the dungeons of La République du Cameroon, are still standing strong for this movement. That is not going to change for Comrade Cho Ayaba. And so I think if they thought that they're going to achieve something by doing that, it is erroneous. But again, as you pointed out, I've also made this clarion call on the people of Ambazonia to understand. We may have disagreements among ourselves. You understand what I mean? We may not be very happy with each other's approach or with one person or the other person's approach to prosecuting this liberation movement. We may be vexed by one thing or the other, but the enemy shall never be the one to bring correction to any one of us. It has to be by us. So if any one of us is captured by the enemy, we all have to come together. Always. Because you recall the African proverb, which says, you first of all chase away the hawk, and then you will blame the mother hen much later for wandering far into the forest in the first place. So this is what we have to do. And it is our singular duty to do that. Because while Lilo will say international law is protecting him, he's not a citizen of La République du Cameroon, he is a German citizen, they cannot do this, they cannot do that. International relations is about interest. And when you have a rogue country like Cameroon, that is ready to do anything, they are ready to offer the whole country if they will be able to have their way, to violate the law. Of course, they did that with Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and others. They violated the international law of non-refoulement. Even the United Nations, came eventually with a ruling asking that they should be released and even compensated. Nothing has happened. You understand why? So, what I want you to note is we don't have to lie on our laurels. We have to fight and fight and fight like hell. Like we really depend on us alone. Because the time is coming, La République du Cameroon will capitulate. When La République du Cameroon get to that place where they are bleeding, where they are choking, they will be the ones to call for those negotiations. And I've said this before. Until that day that La République du Cameroon itself calls for those negotiations, any other thing that comes, we just show act of presence to show goodwill, but it's a waste of time. But they are getting there. You can see from the asphyxiating taxes, you can see how frightened they are about the prospect of the devaluation of the Central African CFA franc. You can understand, therefore, that 2025 is going to be a very deadly year in La République du Cameroon. The people are going to understand that those 2 cubes of sugar, not only are they not melting, but they are going to sink the boat. I can't hear you.
The issue that we saw, Dr. Asongo went to the United Nations Minority Right Group and was discussing about the minority right of the people of Ambazonia. I watched a show with Professor Anyangwe, and I was very, I love the way he analyzed the question between minority rights and referendum, and how Dr. Asongo misinterpreted who we are as a people. We are not minority. So I don't understand. Can you give us a little bit about that discussion that Dr. Asongo went to the United Nations Minority Right Conference and was discussing about how the right of the people of Ambazonia, how he wants peace through
Devolution.
then I forget what here Capo is calling it. I don't know whether it's devolution. So I don't know what they're trying to do, but you know better because they sent you all a copy of the presentation.
Well, I should say first of all here that when they are talking about devolution, I think for someone like Capo Daniel, I can forgive him because I know that it's ignorance. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. Someone in La République du Cameroon coined it and put it in his mouth and told him that this is a wonderful thing that you can talk about, and that's why he's singing it up and down. For somebody like Asongo, who says he's a professor, I'm not here to argue against somebody's academic credentials. He should definitely understand that talk of devolution in a circumstance like this, I mean, it's not just out of place, but what should I say? I'm even looking for the term to use that should be, generous enough. But let me just say they simply don't get it. They simply don't get it. Devolution of powers, when you talk about devolution of powers, you're talking about an entity which is part and parcel of the country that you're talking about. Capo Daniel, when he's talking about devolution, he has first of all spent a lot of time trying to explain to the people how the Southern Cameroons is not an entity on its own. They forget that these were 2 parties. And the federal constitution talked of 2 states equal in status. I guess that makes sense to you. I'm not the one saying it. That's what was said in that constitution. 2 states equal in status that came together to form a union. Don't ever forget this. That in 1960, there was a country called the Republic of Cameroon that achieved independence on the 1st of January, 1960. At that time, the Southern Cameroons was still a UN trust territory, just like La République du Cameroon that became the Republic of Cameroon had been a UN trust territory, same class. Don't forget that after the referendum, or after the plebiscite of February 11, when the people of the Southern Cameroons were asked, when you achieve independence, who will you join? Mark the question. We wanted to achieve independence and join someone because the British government felt that we do not have resources enough. And if we were allowed to be on our own, we would depend on the British taxpayers' money. So they wanted to lump us, and their greatest ambition was to get us with Nigeria. And when we did not go with Nigeria, that's how they simply, had to shortchange us with the French and collect some island from somewhere and trade us like animals. But what I'm trying to say here is, I like people to always mark this historical chronology. That after the plebiscite of 1961, in February, it is in April of the same year that the UN held an independence vote for the Southern Cameroons. So this should tell you that independence vote meant that we have to be an independent entity so that we will be able to enter into a union agreement with La République du Cameroon as a separate entity equal in status. Of course, the majority of the United Nations voted in favor of independence for the Southern Cameroons, although La République du Cameroon, France, and some Francophone African countries voted against. But when you look at what happened, therefore, in October 1961, the country known as La République du Cameroon, or the Republic of Cameroon, ceased to exist. The entity known as the country known as the Southern Cameroons ceased to exist. And the two came together and formed a country known as the Federal Republic of Cameroon, made up of two federated states. The federated state of East Cameroon, which was the territory of the former Republic of Cameroon, and the federated state of West Cameroon, which was the territory of the former Southern Cameroons. That's what it was. And the constitution talked of two states equal in status. How, therefore, do you get up some morning and you start telling me that one should begin to enjoy devolution of powers from the other? That's absurd. And you will recall that in 1972, when they organized the fake referendum of May 20, to say they wanted to do a unitary state, but they ended up again with the name United Republic of Cameroon, which it tells you this is because there were two entities that came together. And then when Paul Biya decided in 1984, by presidential decree, to restore the Republic of Cameroon, they opted out of the Union. And by the same token, began the annexation of the Southern Cameroons. That is why the venerated Fongoji Dinka went to court in Bamenda. I hope you haven't forgotten that the Bamenda High Court, or the Mezam High Court, heard the matter of the secession of La République du Cameroon from the Union. La République du Cameroon, that was supposed to be represented by Paul Biya, did not show up. And the justices present, they were led by Justice Fombe of blessed memory, granted Fongoji Dinka's prayer and ruled that the state of Southern Cameroon had to be restored because La République du Cameroon, by going back to its name, République du Cameroon, had seceded from the Union. How then do you get up one good morning and start telling me that we should seek devolution of powers from La République du Cameroon? That's the first thing. Then secondly, you go to Switzerland and proclaim that we are a minority. Minority in which country? Because we are not part of La République du Cameroon. We have never been part of La République du Cameroon. So I think Asongu needed some visibility. I guess perhaps he got what he wanted from the people in Switzerland. He needed some visibility. He obviously got it. And I heard them talk about devolution of power and then referendum. Let me say this about referendum, because that's another thing that people have talked about a lot. Listen, if you clamor for a referendum at this point where we are, where La République du Cameroon through France are claiming ownership of our land, you are going to have a LECAM run a referendum for you. You know the result in advance. In every territory which became independent from a liberation war or from, a conflict like our own, referendum comes as part of a comprehensive peace agreement. Because during that comprehensive peace agreement, the modalities of the organization of such a referendum are agreed to, and all guarantees are put in place to ensure that it will be a free, fair, and transparent vote, and that the will of the people will effectively be felt. You hear the people of La République du Cameroon are saying today, yes, they need that referendum, and everybody has to vote. Everybody, including who? Like they did their referendum in 1972. So these are things that people need to know. I've told people, and I'm reiterating it. We have one way. It is a hard way, but it is the only way. We have to bring La République du Cameroon on its knee. La République du Cameroon, it's getting there. We are meeting our objectives. You can see them. You can see them in serious pains. The cost of occupation is very, very, very high. They are not able to sustain anymore. France, that was their backbone, is now facing major challenges of its own. And so, when we would have brought La République du Cameroon to that point where they are choking and they can't have it anymore, they will do like the president of Indonesia did when the people of East Timor literally asphyxiated them as we are doing. And
Thank you.
the president of Indonesia had to call on the United Nations to come organize a referendum in East Timor. And you and I know the result and what it is today. So we have to remain steadfast. Freedom is sweet, but freedom is not free. I'm sure we all knew when we got into this that it was not going to be a walk through the park. It has to be a lot of sacrifice. Our people on ground zero are leading the charge. They are showing us. Even as I'm talking to you tomorrow, Wednesday is Christmas, but in Bamenda on Saturday, it will be locked down. Nobody is enforcing it. It wasn't even called from the diaspora. Nobody knows where the call came from. But the people want to use the opportunity of the end of year feast to send another sound message. You can see that level of sacrifice, that level of devotion, that level of resiliency and determination. That is a call on us in the diaspora who are standing on the fence, who are backsliding, to recognize that the way to salvation for the people of the Southern Cameroons is for us to continually turn the fire on La République du Cameroon.
Thank you. A lot of are you getting me? Yes, a lot of information there. Because you as a pioneer members of this struggle, we saw you right from ground zero, from consortium, the workers movement, the that came up right to now. So you have first hand information. And you have been part of the two negotiations, the one that held in Switzerland and the one that held in Canada. I want just for you to give a little bit of your own take about owing to the failures of these previous mediation efforts, both in Switzerland and Canada. What specific role do you think that the leaders can play to fast track a meaningful negotiation towards a lasting peace in Ambazonia? You have been in both Switzerland negotiation and Canada negotiation. What do you think can be done at this time to drag La Republique to the negotiation table?
You said it very well. That La République du Cameroon can only be dragged to the negotiation table. I like the way you landed, because La République du Cameroon will never voluntarily go to the negotiations table. And the reason is simple. La République du Cameroon knows that in an internationally mediated settlement, they have zero chance. I mean zero chances of prevailing. Zero. They are aware. Because they have no claim to the territory of the Southern Cameroons. And so, if you expect that La République du Cameroon will just get up one morning and say, okay, I'm going to a negotiations table those, it will be a waste of time. What happened with Switzerland? I mean, La République du Cameroon got into a ruse because at that time when the Swiss came and when HD came, I was making all that noise here and there. The international community was turning the ire on La République du Cameroon. You recall, it was so bad that there was a letter from someone at the French at the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the government of Cameroon saying something had to be seen to be done. They should be seen to be doing something so quickly before the session of the United Nations that 2019. Otherwise, I mean, it was the situation was going to be bad. So like people to Cameroon yield to some of those kind who pretend to be part of those things, but they were never part of it. They were never there. Canada was the first time that La République du Cameroon actually even felt that perhaps they could go closer to something. But the point is, they thought that they had succeeded in dividing us so seriously to the point where we can't see eyeball to eyeball with each other. And they have always been deceived by this noise they get on social media to think that we don't even talk to each other, that in the leadership or whatever we cannot even greet each other, we cannot sit by each other. And so when they propose to get when they approach the Canadian government to start some pre-talks, they were certain that they were coming to do what is called a retail peace agreement. Retail peace agreement because they were coming, they know we will talk with. That's why they principally invited mainly the groups that have boots on the ground. So they knew we would talk to A of C in one corner today because that's how their program was. On day one, we will talk with A of C. The people of A of C will interact with them until then. On day two, we will talk with the people of the Act. On day three, we will talk with the people of the IG Care. On day four, we will talk with the people of I think the IG Marienta or whatever. So they were so certain that that's how they were going to do because they knew they had divided us so much so they would talk with this one and then come and say, you see, these people have agreed. What do you think? Those people, unfortunately for them, when they got to Canada, and I want to give the CDN, the Committee on Negotiations and Dialogue, I want to give the CDN, the kudos for the initiative they took immediately that stuff came up. They convened us in the United Kingdom. We had a very important meeting in London at which we're able to, reconcile some few differences and then agree to operate in Canada as one body. Both those that were directly invited and those that were not invited, we all came together and agreed to work as one people and to send one delegation. And La République du Cameroon will be faced in Canada by the Southern Cameroons, representatives of the Southern Cameroons, not groups. And so when they got to Canada and they discovered that, and we picked a leader in Professor Carlson Anyangwe to lead the charge. When La République discovered that, they knew it was dead. It was dead end. I'll not go further into some of the details. I guess when Professor Carlson Anyangwe finally comes, because we agreed that he's going to, handle that, he'll be able to talk about some of those details. But what I want to say is the discussions went on neatly until we even got to the point of signing paper, putting a pen to ink to paper. And La République du Cameroon saw that if they pursued that path, de facto they had accepted that we were a separate entity and they were a separate entity because it was now absolutely the Southern Cameroons, representatives of the Southern Cameroons and representatives of La République du Cameroon. That is exactly what La République du Cameroon never wants to hear. And so they realized that they had scammed themselves. They realized they had deceived themselves to imagine that the divide and rule had reached right to the point where, they could easily carry out a kind of retail, a fake peace agreement with our people. It didn't go. Because I want to say this to the people of the Southern Cameroons. A lot of the hype, even about our division, is hype. Because frankly speaking, whenever the time comes, we are able to rise to the occasion and to operate like one man. So this is for our people to understand what we need is to continue to support our people on ground zero, to continue to turn the iron and make the cost of occupation unbearable for La République du Cameroon. We will get there. La République cannot prevail against us. I always want to quote Honorable Thibaut Nagy, a friend of Ambazonia, who in one tweet made clear the people of Ambazonia will get exactly what they want. It is just a matter of time. You see what happened in Syria. At some point, nobody was talking again about Syria. Bashar al-Assad seemed to have won. It seemed as if Bashar al-Assad had quelled the opposition, subdued them, and reduced them to nonsense. And so, for at least 3 to 4 years, nobody was talking again about Syria. Just like at some point they say, oh, nobody's talking again about Southern Cameroons in no international media and nothing. It means no. One good morning, the world was shocked to find that the termites were eating the throne gradually, until at one point when they had finished severing the entire thing, the throne simply sank. That's exactly what is happening. Because see, 2025 is going to begin to show to not only to the citizens of La République du Cameroon, but to the rest of the world that before long, Yaoundé will come crawling on their stomachs and begging for peace. At that time, we will have a comprehensive peace agreement. Trust me on this. We just have to remain steadfast.
Thank you. You know, I I like that mention of Assad. You know how everybody was saying that, oh, Assad has defeated those guys, and all of a sudden they wake up from slumber. Uh, but I want us to talk about Commonwealth, because I see Professor Masanga and some other leaders trying to ask for the suspension of Cameroon from Commonwealth, because we all know Cameroon is part of Commonwealth because of the people of Ambazonia, the English speaking part of. So when Patricia Scotland visited Cameroon, she mentioned about the crisis, because she visited in 2017 when the crisis started. She went and told Pobia that he should resolve this crisis amicably, but Pobia did not listen. So I don't know, the suspension of Cameroon from Commonwealth, can it really be effective, or the Commonwealth will not listen, owing to the fact that, like you mentioned, the British are really inclined with the French as the veto power in the United Nations Security Council?
Let me say this: the Commonwealth of Nations is a scam, and the outbreak of the conflict in the Southern Cameroons brought it. Made it public. Even the notion that they admitted the La République du Cameroon into the Commonwealth of Nations because of the Southern Cameroons, I think it doesn't even make any sense anymore. Because don't forget Gabon. I understand Gabon. I've not. I think I heard about that. I lost interest in Commonwealth because Gabon is a member of the Commonwealth now, if I'm not mistaken. Gabon is an entirely French-speaking country. The same thing with Rwanda. It's true that Rwanda officially abolished French and adopted English, but they were a French-speaking country. They're a member of the Commonwealth. You have English-speaking nations that have sought to become part of la Francophonie. You understand the philosophy of the Commonwealth is simply to spread the English language and to promote British imperialism. So, when we were introduced to the Commonwealth of Nations, I remember at the time we would talk of Chief Emeka Anyaoku. We often saw that structure as one noble body made up of gentlemen, that the respect for human rights there was, something of the. But trust me, folks, I came to realize, don't forget, I was a member of the International Executive Bureau of the Commonwealth Journalists Association International. I got elected in London in 2016. I was the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Journalists Association, CJA Cameroon. So just to tell you how deep it was into the Commonwealth, I thought that the Commonwealth had some core values that would define how it functions. But if you look at even just one of those core values, like Republic Cameroon should never have existed in the Commonwealth even in the first place. And then with what is going on, we saw the Commonwealth of Nations sanction Zimbabwe. What happened in Zimbabwe? Did Mugabe commit? I mean, the kind of atrocity crimes and crimes against humanity that Paul Biya is committing in the southern Cameroon. Mugabe did not commit genocide. No. So we saw them suspend countries over trivialities. Over they say, oh, they shot some opposition people or people who were demonstrating in the streets. Commonwealth will suspend you. But this is La République du Cameroon. They gather people in Gabu, children, school children, and a pregnant woman, burn them alive. Not even a statement from the Commonwealth. You call that thing something. The Commonwealth of Nations is a scam. It has been a scam from day one. We just did not take note. I want to really, really appreciate, congratulate, and thank Dr. Masanga for the great job he's doing, not just for the people of the Southern Cameroon, but across the African continent. He is a man devoted to the cause of the downtrodden, cause of people who are facing serious challenges, and I like to laud his initiative. The initiative he took along with the organizations working with him to sue Paul Biya, before the International Criminal Court. That is a very important step. That is what to me can make an impact. Not talking about suspension from the Commonwealth. What Commonwealth are you talking about? Because the Commonwealth is an instrument in the hands of the British to promote their policies. And the British know that they sold us. Sold us. This is embarrassing to really say. The British sold us. Like you said, cattle, like you said, goats, like you said, chicken to the French. And so, therefore, because they know the role that they play, you have heard even British lords say it in the House of Lords. British parliamentarians say it in the House of Commons about their responsibility. You have heard even them right at that stage decry the fact that while La République du Cameroon was actually killing people in the southern Cameroons, the British went to sign an oil and gas deal with La République du Cameroon. Our oil and gas. This is something that should ring a bell in your head. Commonwealth is a scam. Because at the start, we always say, oh no, once we kick La République Cameroon out, we'll become the newest member of the Commonwealth of Nations. Am I alive? I'll never hear of that kind of nonsense.
So, what is your take about the long term benefit of the ICC case against Paul Biya, of this the human right abuses, the arbitrary arrest, detention that we see on our people, Ayaba, Abdul Karim, the Neraten,
Let me even
all
interrupt
these
you right
people.
there. Let me interrupt you right there. The benefit is not even long term, it begins even in the short term. Because first, you see, the Norwegian government, right now, they should be embarrassed and should be wondering what they want to do with Comrade Cho Ayaba in their hands right now. Because if you are accusing Comrade Cho Ayaba of inciting a genocide, right? Okay. Then you want to open the case about the genocide that's ongoing in the southern Cameroons. In which case, that should involve Paul Biya and all his apparatchiks that are involved with, presiding over this genocide. So the introduction of this case at this point in time is extremely welcome because it's going to shine the light on the whole thing. The world should not practice what is called selective justice. You know, the kind of thing that happened between Gbagbo and Alassane Dramane Ouattara. Because the French interest was at stake, and because the French were all involved in all of that nonsense, what happened to Gbagbo and Blé Goudé was a victor's peace. Peace arrangement. And so, like people in Cameroon too, would have been expecting that they get to that place where they say they have annihilated us, and then they gather people and say, "We are sending you to the ICC for whatever." That would be a victor's peace arrangement. That's why the case against Gbagbo and the Blake Goudé did not even get sustained. Because if you had to really get sustained, Ouattara himself and Guillaume Soro should have found themselves too at the ICC. This is what it is. So, what Dr. Masanga has been able to do, that feat he has been able to lift, is very, very important. Absolutely important.
Yes. So how are the leaders? How are you guys mobilizing to go like a joint force? Because I know a united front of leaders can do a lot. How can the leaders and various organizations effectively advocate for the release of the wrongfully detained individuals? And what role can the international community play in this, in supporting your effort? Because you leaders have to do your own part. Then the international community will come and support you for what you're doing.
Talking about the mobilization or the kind of support we would like to give to the initiative taken by Dr. Masanga, refer you to an African proverb that you know, or is not even an African proverb. It says, "Secrets of the house are not told in broad daylight." I'm sure you are aware, right? Secrets of the house are not told in broad daylight. So whatever is being done is being done. Like I said earlier, it's a very laudable initiative, and we are taking it very, 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 very seriously at that level. Now, mobilization to free our leaders, I mean, it's really been ongoing. And what role the international community can play, you have seen that that definition of international community is very ambiguous. And so, and I pointed out earlier that on the international scene, you have big fishes, you have small ones. So you have those who are stakes and those that are, stakeholders. And if you are a stake, the stakeholders decide your fate. So what is happening right now is that in this circumstance in which we find ourselves, we are literally the stakes, and that is why the the powers that be are for now fostering their interests until we get to that place where they begin to see their interest in our interests. I mean, the narrative would definitely change because you know that the United Nations, like I said, already passed a ruling asking for the release of Sisiko Julius Ayuktabe and the rest of the Nera 10. But and even and I mean, and even asked that they should be indemnified, but it has not been implemented. Who is the gendarme of the United Nations? So if disinterested the gendarmes of the world, if the interest of the Americans was really involved inside it, they will ensure that that rule is implemented. That rule is implemented. If it please the French, they will ensure that the ruling is implemented. If it please the British, the Russians, or the Chinese. But in this case, you notice that the British and the French are part of the culprits, and then the British and the French are members of NATO. They are the US allies. So the US go against their allies. What interest will push them to get to that? That is why we have to work very hard to get to that place where they begin to understand that there will be no
Okay.
peace in that subregion until they resolve our situation, until we get what we want.
Okay. Uh, let's let's talk on this issue that you mentioned before, but I want it to be more elaborate because I know you guys are talking about it. Given this current displacement and persecution of the people of Southern Cameroon, and this, can you think a referendum at this point in time, if not organized by the international by uh, the the United Nations, uh, organize something? Do you think can be fair? Depending on the IDPs, the refugees, the exilees. Do you think a referendum at this time can be fair? Because a lot of people are talking about a referendum, but they're not talking about the procedure that can lead towards a referendum.
I'm sure I answered this question earlier on in the program. You might simply not have taken note. I said, right now, when you are saying if not organized by the international community, how La République du Cameroon is claiming that we are part of their territory. The French are saying, yeah, we cannot go inside there because, it's a territory of La République du Cameroon. The British are playing game the other way and all of those things. You see, they will say, because they will tell themselves that, well, if there is relative peace, why should they come in there too? Oh, no, hell no. There is no talk of anybody coming from anywhere to organize anything called referendum in our country right now. If you insist on a referendum being organized in the current dispensation, I told you earlier, La République du Cameroon will say, okay, they will conduct that referendum and they will run it their way and give the world the result that they are giving. And they are not even going to conduct it in our land. You heard they will tell you that all of them will vote. So anyone calling for referendum right now, they simply don't understand what they are talking about. I had this conversation with the divine Dennis Atemken, who is was working with the African Union. I had this conversation with him on my platform where he was pushing, and I said, we need to understand this. A referendum to resolve the issue will only make sense as part of a comprehensive peace agreement. And that comprehensive peace agreement will only come when La République du Cameroon has been dragged to the negotiations table. When both parties have attained the mutual hurting stalemate, where each side is now convinced that I cannot win and I cannot sustain it anymore. That's when it will happen. So, if you want a referendum, get up right now. Contribute money, contribute effort in whatever way you can to make sure that we continue to resist La République du Cameroon in our land. To make sure that we intensify the resistance and to make sure that we continually increase the cost of occupation until La République du Cameroon chokes its way to the negotiations table. Then, in the peace agreement that will ensue, a referendum is likely to be one of them. And at that point, the modalities will be clarified. Who the organizers will be determined. How it will be organized. Who the electorate will be. How the election will be conducted. Everything will be clarified. You get up now. You say referendum is just you are going to operate just like Paul Biya, who creates a DDR before coming to say let us talk peace. No, those are things that come after a peace agreement. So you will placing the cart before the horse. Right now, focus should be on making the cost of occupation unbearable for La République du Cameroon in our land. Referendum will follow. It's just like they say in church: seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you.
Okay, thank you for that powerful response there. Because of time, my last question will be about unity. Your own take as a leader. What steps you guys are taking to foster that greater cooperation and collaboration among the leaders, so that we can have a kind of synergy where all the voices come together for the liberation of the people of Southern Cameroon.
Let me make this statement that to me I hold very dear here. You see, it's true, we want to work together. It's true, we want to really ensure some kind of strong unity, some kind of strong bonds. But I want to say this. Even in the absence of that structure, maybe that brings all of us together, we're already working together even in clusters. Like I said before, the consortium, the IGK, and the SCNC, we have been working together for a long time. We are working together. We are deciding together. We're even coming up with initiatives to fundraise together and address major issues together. That tells you that kind of working together is gradually taking root. And people expect all of us to bunch together. We may get there one day, but I want to say this: it is that one that La République du Cameroon continues to try to exploit, to say the people are so divided. Who will you talk to? Anytime they have wanted to talk to someone, they have seen all of us, and that you are aware with me. When they got to Canada, they were expecting to see us in broken ranks. They met us as one. So that thing that they continue to push, like you say, they are so divided. For that reason, we cannot know, folks. No, folks. We should come to one clear understanding. We are facing an enemy here that has divide and rule as their major spot of predilection. That is like Republic Cameroon's favorite spot, divide and rule. They have their agents within our struggle, whose only role is to make sure that we are never able to have that kind of visual unity that people will say, yes, they are united. Anytime you start working on something until we are getting close to that, those people will set confusion and make sure it doesn't get to that point. So that visually it is clear in the eyes of our people that we are divided. We are not. No, we are not. We're not that divided. La République du Cameroon itself is even far more divided than us. And you know it. Far more divided than us. I mean, it became very evident in Canada. While the Prime Minister's office was championing what was going on in Canada and reporting to the President of the Republic, at the end of the day, when the government of La République du Cameroon, through their Minister of Communication and spokespersons, it issued a press release to say they don't know anything that's happening in Canada. They have never existed there. Even the Prime Minister of La République did not know. He heard it on radio like you and I. That's to tell you the extent to which they too are extremely divided. But that is not being hyped. They hype on the fact that the people of Ambazonia are so divided, they cannot come to. No, we have at least unity of purpose. And anytime we are faced with a challenge, which requires us to rise up to the occasion as a people and operate as one, we have never failed to do so. That there is evidence. So, my people, if you don't have one pot relief yet to contribute to that you believe in, look at those that are very actively doing serious work on the ground. Contribute to them. Make sure you are contributing somewhere to keep this liberation movement alive. That's the most important thing that we have to do. From all angles, as you see, there are single individuals, I call them one-man armies in this liberation movement, who are single-handedly doing wonderful things on the ground to keep this resistance strong. I hail them. I dove my heart to them. And I want to encourage each and every one of us, don't neglect the small role you can play. Your $10, your $20, your $50 that you contribute to help in one compartment or department of our liberation movement will take us to where we intend to go. Don't neglect it.
Thank you, man. I can't thank you enough for coming to the show today. And you are the the archaeologist of the they call it what, the historians of the of the struggle, because you have a wealth of information that I can't thank you enough for coming to the show, and I'll be bringing you on most of the time, because you have a wealth of information as one of the leaders of consortium. I want to say thank you, Comrade John Bakoro, for honoring my invitation. Thank you very much for enlightening our people. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. We are watching your show every single day. Thank you for everything you're doing for the people of Ambazonia. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
To our people, I want to say thank you. Thank you for watching. I know you have heard all what our comrade John Bakoro have been saying. Thank you, because you please continue to watch his program. He has his show, John Bakoro. He has wealth of information for this powerful struggle. And if you have any question, please make sure you watch his shows, okay? And I appreciate his work with all the leaders, what they're doing to make sure we liberate the country, Ambazonia. Thank you for watching, and God bless you. God bless all the people of Southern Cameroon for their wonderful effort, their sacrifice. God bless the powerful restoration freedom fighters fighting for their life, fighting for the freedom of people of Ambazonia. Thank you for watching. God bless you. See you in the next episode.